There's nothing worse than investing your time and your effort into growing produce, whether it's fruit or vegetables, and then losing it to pests. It's absolutely disheartening, and you really feel like giving up sometimes when that happens. But what I've found is that you really need to look ahead and be prepared. But sometimes you still get caught off guard. And this is an example. This prune, which is an improved Diagon prune, an absolutely delicious fruit, lovely sweet flesh to eat fresh, or bottles really well also. You don't need any sweetening with it because it has enough sugars in it to really taste great. In the past I've had absolutely no trouble with this prune. Nothing has troubled it in any significant way, maybe a minor little bit of loss. But this year it's been absolutely attacked by little white-eye birds that are just sitting up there. You'll probably hear them chirping in the background in their delight as they're just consuming this fruit. We haven't had them here in previous years, but this year they've arrived in mass and they're just really into it. Now, there was heaps on it to begin with, and I started picking lots and lots. But the other day I found there was massive attack from these birds. I picked as many as I could and have been in the process of bottling those. So while there has been quite some significant loss because of the birds, we're actually trying to minimise that. But today I really have to go in there and get everything that is left that is usable, because I'm going to be at work, and in a few days' time, if I leave them, there'll be nothing left. One of the problems with these birds is they peck the fruit, and if it's ripe it just falls on the ground. So they just then move on to another piece of fruit. And so they're destroying fruit without actually getting even much food from it. Then of course the European wasps come in and follow and start sucking the juices out. So pests like this are a real problem. Now, I am used to bird netting the brambleberries because they also would be attacked very quickly, and a lot of birds will go for those sort of things. The cherries also I netted this year, and so we did get some crop and they were very delicious. I've always found that protecting your crop by nets is the best solution. People come up with other ideas like having bird scarers and things around, but I always find that they really are hit and miss, and birds get used to things and will still move in and attack. And some things like, for example, European wasps, which are a pest here later in the season. From now on in the season they're going to be a real pest. Nothing is going to keep those away except a barrier. I'm no expert on growing grapes here in this area, but with the attempts that I have made, the one thing I have found is if the grapes are ripening later in the season, or probably pretty much at any time, the birds and the European wasps will pretty much wipe them right out. Particularly the European wasps late in the season, as their numbers build up, they just love the sugars in the grapes and they just suck them dry. They've already taken out this dark grape at one end, as it was an earlier ripening grape. I think the birds came first and then the wasps followed, and forget it, it's all gone. However, this Sultana grape is still ripening, well, still developing actually, because it's got a little way to go to ripen. It's a later crop, and at the time it's going to ripen, I know that the European wasps are going to be in plague proportions. Now, it'd be a really nice concept to be able to get rid of them, but when you're surrounded by the forest as we are, even finding the nest is pretty much impossible. So the only option is to cover it. Now, to do that, I've purchased this net, which is a super fine, I don't know if you can see, and we can get a focus up close, it's a super fine nylon mesh, very, very tough. It would keep pretty much everything out. It would keep fruit fly out if you had that, providing you sealed the joins, and it's going to defeat the European wasps, I'm sure. The beauty of something like this is still going to let the rain through, it's going to let the air through, allow it to ventilate, but it's going to keep the pests off really, really well. This net would cover the entire length of these grapes that I have here. but because one of the grapes is gone, it already is under wasp attack, I'm only going to cover the one, and so my covering is going to be a bit quick and a bit messy, but it should keep the wasps off and allow us to actually get our first taste of these sultana grapes. This net is 10 metres long and 2.5 metres wide, so it has, let's say, plenty of length, enough to cover this entire trellis. I'm only doing half of it this year, so I'm going to have to try and close it up here, which is not going to be the easiest thing, but pegs or something like that should allow me to do that. I'll put some information about this in the description, so if you do want to chase up something like this, it might be helpful. I said it to be quick and messy, and that's what it is. Because I didn't want to cut it, as I had enough length to do the whole lot and I'm not covering it all this year, I've folded one end significantly, and I've used these makeshift clips made from polypipe just by cutting a piece of polypipe so it will open, clipping that over the cloth at the bottom. I think PVC pipe would make a better clip as it's stiffer, or you could use pegs or bulldog clips to close it up, but this will do for now. At least this way, with it covered like this, I have some expectation of actually getting to taste these grapes when they're ripe. So next year I'll have to get in earlier and cover the whole lot so that we get all of the grapes. And also I will need to ensure that I get a bird net over this plum next year so that we actually get a good crop off it. In order to get a net over it, of course, I'm going to need to do some deliberate pruning over winter to get it into a shape that it will take a net, but that's for another season.